Nearly 4 million school-age kids and teens have learning disabilities. 20% of them have a disability that makes it difficult for them to concentrate. Fabrice Burkhalter, a 10th grader at Zurich International School, faces that challenge every day. Fabrice has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, more commonly known as ADHD. This kind of learning disability can cause people to be distracted and doesn't allow them to focus well in class. It can also become an issue regarding the student's studies, which is why it is important that teachers and specialized counselors can help a student if needed. Such conditions can affect both the academic life of a person and also the normal day-to-day life.
I get really distracted easily and I can't focus that well, and it affects my grades too sometimes, in that I can't focus, sometimes I don't understand and I have to keep on asking questions.
Learning support provides students with additional support if they have special education requirements. This includes helping them be organized, manage their time, and complete homework assignments or tests. Teachers at ZAS are also familiar with how to teach children with learning disabilities. Although different systems and strategies are used to approach these kids, help is always provided in one way or another.
I'm in learning support, and Miss Davis always goes over my work with me, and she helps me a lot with my homework. Without it, I wouldn't be able to be as well with my work.
Other students who don't have a learning disability don't face such a daily struggle. Because all students are in one class, it can be hard for a teacher to adjust class to make it suitable for each individual student. It's easy for Fabrice to notice the difference between the way he studies and how the other students handle their workload.
Well, they can focus better, so they get everything in one take, and most of the time, and they don't get distracted that easily.
Each student is unique and has a different condition to face, making it crucial for there to be a strong, broad support system at school. Because students that are not affected by any learning disability can focus better and generally don't need help or guidance with school-related work, the minority of children who do have a learning disability do need the guidance. Support can be given in any way a kid needs it. Depending on the issue or condition a student has, help and support is always available depending on individual needs. While talking to some teachers at ZIS, it appears that various methods are used to help kids with a learning disability. Each teacher tries to adapt class enough to make the class as a whole work well. There are specialized counselors at school to assist the kids individually outside of class.
The field that I work in with students with learning disabilities, primarily, sometimes I help them academically, depending on the disability, and sometimes their learning disability affects their social skills, so I work with them in that way. So in the realm of a guidance counselor, my prime role with any student, including students with disabilities, is to remove as many barriers as possible from a student's to encourage student success, whether that's personal, social, academic, whatever. So it depends, and sometimes they're interrelated. So I work with them, not all of them, but I work with them either for whatever reason they come through the door, and often like I said, it's a combination of things.
Each student has their own condition to face. ADD, ADHD, and dyslexia are the most common learning disabilities, and they all present with different struggles.
Sometimes it's understanding the teacher, understanding the lecture, understanding the material. It might go too fast, it might be words they don't know. It might be that they process things differently. They hear what you would hear normally. They would take in information and it doesn't get processed in their brain the same way. So if you heard a very simple statement that you would understand perfectly, everybody else would understand. For some people it takes longer to process, or it could be processing, takes longer time to think about it and then to formalize an answer. So sometimes it's just a matter of time, it takes more time to get things out. Or sometimes it's a visual. They look at things and they don't see it the same way that you see it. And sometimes, as I said, it's a social issue where they have the inability to interact well with other students. It's a number of things. Yeah.
With so many different students who are faced with various kinds of learning disabilities, there are of course many different ways to help each individual student. Many students, diagnosed with a learning disability, work with a special teacher or a tutor a couple hours of the week to learn certain study skills, like note-taking strategies or organizational techniques, which can then help them compensate for their learning disability.
Basically, the most important thing for me is to help the student understand what their difficulty is and to teach them to advocate for themselves. So, depending on what their needs are, that child needs to know when they go into a classroom, how will they be the most effective learner.
There are also various ways to support the student in class rather than outside of school.
Some students may need extra time for tests. Some students have spatial visual disability, and they may need a scribe. So that someone may need to take a test, and there's someone actually writing out the answers for them. There are kids that need a manipulative to learn differently. You have teachers that teach in different styles, just like you have students that learn in different styles. So what happens is that if you have a teacher who's lecturing, then we may have a student using a recording device to record those lectures so that when they get home, they can take their time and listen to them in small bits at a time.
As mentioned before, teachers have various ways of handling individual students with disabilities. At ZIS, teachers are well informed about how to adjust their class to suit everybody.
Well, first of all, it's important that they're aware of what the disability is, and then they should be aware also of the wide range of strategies that can help certain disabilities. And again, it comes down to the individual. Each student has to have, we have in the school, and I'm sure you'll hear this from the learning support teachers, individual education programs, IEPs, and each student, sit down with each student and figure out what it is that is impeding their learning the most, and then strategies to figure out how to break down those barriers. And that's a long process.
A learning disability isn't necessarily a setback, it can also be a gift. Every student has a different way of learning, regardless of disability or no disability. Having a learning condition isn't something to be ashamed of, but something to embrace.